So Ken Klippenstein of The Nation has a bombshell report that just dropped. Feds intercepted protesters' phone communications in Portland this summer. Intel sources with knowledge of the operation tell me, quote, "You're getting an inside view into your targets, who they are, who they're talking to, the hierarchy." So, I'm old enough to remember when the intelligence agencies and the federal government argued, no, all this technology that we're using to spy, we're only doing it to protect the country, and we're only spying on Al-Qaeda terrorists. This was the old argument. Some of you are probably old enough to remember this as well. This was the debate. This was the discussion. You know, during the height of the Iraq War and with the Patriot Act, the argument was, I mean, come on. The reason why we need bulk NSA metadata collection is because we have to stop Al-Qaeda terrorists. We have to have a way to track them. And this is what we're going to do. And the argument that civil libertarians made at the time was, you're out of your mind. No. You think they're only going to use it for this? No, if you give them this power, of course they're going to use it for more than just going after Al-Qaeda terrorists. And by the way, who defines an Al-Qaeda terrorist? Did you prove it in a court of law? No. So it's just who you think the Al-Qaeda terrorists are. And as we know, the United States government locked up innocent people at Guantanamo Bay, cut deals with warlords in Afghanistan and Pakistan to send us Al-Qaeda, and then they just shipped us their enemies, not Al-Qaeda. Plenty of innocent people were at Guantanamo Bay and were at Abu Ghraib. So the government doesn't get it right all the time. Are you kidding me? But now we know. Well, I mean, we already knew with the Snowden leaks, but now this is the next step. So my guess is it was mission creep. We'll start just going after who we think it, is in Al-Qaeda, and then, might have expanded a little bit to, well, maybe not just that. Maybe we'll also take a look at potentially some people who are affiliated with a Mexican drug cartel or something, and then it's mission creep a little more. Hey, maybe we could just look for people who are hardcore criminals, career criminals. Maybe we'll spy on them. And then now it's Portland protesters. Now remember, a report came out not too long ago that said 93% of the protests happening across the country in the wake of George Floyd and many of the other things that have happened, 93% are peaceful. 7% are not. Portland protesters. So all the protesters in Portland are violent? Of course not. Of course not. So they're not all violent, but they're spying on all of them anyway. They didn't get a warrant, which means it's wildly unconstitutional, and it's a violation of the Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable search and seizure. And here we are. Exactly where civil libertarians warned we would be. You give the government the authority, they're absolutely going to abuse it. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the old saying goes. You gave them absolute power, gave them the ability to spy on everybody, now look at what they're doing. Portland protesters spying on them for what? For what? Guys, read about COINTELPRO if you haven't yet. The FBI, a lot of the intelligence agencies view as part of their job to crush left-wing movements. Remember, the intelligence agencies sent a letter to Martin Luther King trying to get him to kill himself. They spied on Malcolm X to see if they could dig up dirt on him. That's how they knew MLK was having affairs, because they were spying on him. Malcolm X, they tried to get on something. He wasn't having an affair, but this is what they do. They spy on the left. They try to crush the left. They view you not as an American with a different viewpoint. They view you as akin to terrorists. Spying on Portland protesters. Spying on Portland protesters. Not a particular person who maybe committed a crime and then you got a warrant. No. Spying on Portland protesters. Tracking their back and forth. Privacy, gone. Gone. This is wildly unconstitutional. Now, another thing that's in this piece from Ken Klippenstein is the intelligence agencies actually asked for volunteers. And Ken's source says that's an indication that they know what they're asking for them to do is technically illegal. Is volunteers. So almost like a off the books, but this is what we're trying to do type thing. So we're not going to follow the proper procedures. We're not going to follow the Constitution. We're not going to follow due process. We're not going to do the right thing. We want you to do our dirty work, and so let's get some volunteers. So they know what they're doing is wrong, but they did it anyway. If you think the intelligence agencies crushing the left is just a thing of the past, it's not. It's still going on right now. There was a guy, a former either CIA guy or FBI guy, who was on Tucker Carlson's show like 2 years ago, and there was a clip that went viral because the guy admitted, like, yeah, that's what we do. Like, of course. So they view you as a domestic enemy. They do. They view the left as a domestic enemy. So maybe don't believe every single thing that comes from anonymous intelligence officials, because they're the people who lied us into the Iraq War. They're the people who lied about Russiagate repeatedly. And they're the people who are trying to destroy the left. So don't bolster them. Understand who these people are. They view you as an enemy. And this means there are no constitutional rights and protections. There is no Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable search and seizure for these protesters out there. Which means, quite literally, the intelligence officers who are doing this, they're un-American. The most American thing is to abide by the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment, and they're disregarding it. And again, this is why Edward Snowden is a hero, because he showed that it was the government that was acting illegally and acting unconstitutionally. The government was the problem. He was the whistleblower saying, hey, look at the government committing crimes. But of course, they try to take the hero and make him the devil. And that's what they did. So he absolutely needs to be pardoned. Julian Assange, who exposed, the government's wrongdoing and killing of civilians. But anyway, I digress. I'm going down a path that's not directly related to this, but great work from Ken Klippenstein, and devastating story.